Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Welcome.
So, Madam Chair, if I might, I'd like to start by commending the endurance of you and the Commissioners. I know you have a busy agenda and a lot of ground to have covered. I'm in awe of how you endure it all. I will try to not worsen that by droning on and on. I also want to thank you for allowing me to testify remotely. I'm not sure if the Commissioners and you, Madam Chair, can see this, but I think the folks at home can. Given my rocky relationship with some parts of city planning, I was prepared to don this heavy-duty Rydell football helmet, but thankfully, because you're allowing me to speak remotely, I won't risk having my own Mike DePonkus moment. I want to, at the outset also, before I get rolling and perhaps forget, I want to thank the Land Use Chair and the Land Use Committee and the full board at Community Board 1, because in their hearings, they used as St. George residents, as North Shore residents, as Staten Islanders, they used their lived experience to state their opposition to this project rationally, calmly, I think effectively, including refuting one of the notions that we just heard, that somehow St. George is a transit-rich neighborhood. St. George residents and other Staten Islanders scoff at that notion, and rightly so. If I can, I want to try to take today, at least initially, if you will, a 20,000-foot perspective. So you take two steep slope sites in the Special Hillside Preservation District. You add a portion of an adjoining zoning lot that already supports an existing public housing development. You remove the special district designation from those sites, add them to a different special district that the properties were specifically excluded from when mapped. Add the quality housing program to allow floor area exemptions. Then upzone the site to an unprecedented R7 that has never been supported by this commission in Staten Island. Add that zone to the new special district, which is currently not permitted. Then add unprecedented new requirements for the R7 zoning in the special district. Along with the 247% increase in floor area, change the commercial overlay designation for the sites, as well as the other adjoining sites, increase the depth of the commercial lot area and reduce the required parking for the commercial floor area. Finally, add an MIH designation to build affordable housing. Then request special permits to not comply with the new R7 zoning, the mandatory improvements in the new R7 zone, or the permitted building heights in an MIH area. Finally, request street wall waivers and street setback encroachments and an okay to build into the required rear yard. Lastly, if anyone asks you to simply comply with the underlying zoning, reduce the density, the height, the floor area, building coverage, or explain why the proposal may not have enough on-street parking, just say it will not work any other way. I want to drill down a bit on some numbers. I mentioned already the 247% increase in the floor area from a 2.43 FIR of R6 to a 6.0 in an R7-3, but it doesn't end there. The maximum height increases from 70 feet in an R6 to 185 feet in an R7-3. That is a 246% increase in heights deemed appropriate by this commission, and does not include the added special permit height, which is an additional 50.50% increase over the proposed R7-3 district to 26 and 25 stories. There's a reduction in the required residential parking from R6, which would have been 525 cars, to R7, which is 296 cars, and it represents a 56.38 reduction in resident or visitor parking. The applicant will tell you they comply. They comply with the new zone, not the existing zoning or the expected neighborhood standard of care. Reduction in the required retail parking from R6, 1 in 300 square feet, to R7, 1 in 1,000 square feet, represents a 333% reduction in the required customer parking. That's how they comply with the R7. And of course, increase the depth of the existing commercial overlay from an R6, which is 100 feet depth, to an R7, which is 185, represents an 85% increase in commercially zoned lot areas on the site that will not be preserved under the Hillside Preservation District regulations. If I may refute or attempt to refute two comments I heard that I think need to be addressed. It stretches suspending disbelief to make the argument that this isn't precedent setting. This proposal is precedent setting, not merely in terms of its height, but also in the manner in which it ignores almost every existing special district control and every underlying zoning rule that has been deemed appropriate by city planning over the past 3 decades. Lastly, on this point, I heard the term critical mass, that we have to have critical mass and bring more people to Staten Island because from that, all these benefits flow. Well, excuse me for stealing some political lingo that we're all familiar with these days, but critical mass is the big lie of Staten Island. It was uttered in the 60s, and the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s as the glass filled and then eventually spilled over. And that if the people come, the tax base is good for everyone, and infrastructure will be right behind. In the last decade alone, New York City has spent $500 million on sewers on streets, first-time sewers on streets. That's a great thing. It's also 4 or 5 decades too late. So this big lie of we need critical mass, it is a novel we've read. It has a really awful ending. Lastly, your colleague, Fred Cerullo, my appointee, is much more than that to me. He is my friend and he is a mentor. And although we have very different personalities, I watched Fred and I learned from Fred. And when I got to the city council, as a member of a super minority, I held my own, and if I dare say, I did a little better than that because I worked to build relationships, I worked to find common ground, and I cared about getting things done. That was the most important thing to me. And with less than 170 days left in my career as an elected official, that is more true than ever. I am not here for political expediency. I'm not here out of personal pique. I'm here because I am intimately familiar with the story of residential development on Staten Island. And it's a tragic one. It's one that has no planning. It's one that has no vision. And it's one that certainly did not have infrastructure. And I don't know if it's 30% or 50% or 70% of the problems that have crossed my desk in the last 22 years as a member of the city council and borough president. I don't know what the percentage is, but a large amount of those problems emanate from decisions made decades ago or decisions not made decades ago. And I will tell you, and those who know me, you know I'm being truthful, I have said in really creative technicolor language that my mother would not be proud of, how did those leaders then allow it to happen? I do not want history to ask that question of me. Of course I want growth. Of course I want affordable housing. But if I want planning, I want infrastructure. And this project has none of that. It repeats a mistake that we have seen on Staten Island for decades. And so I'm asking you, like this commission has done before, kick it back. My friend Dan Garodnick had a big project kicked back to him, and they worked on a better iteration of it. That's what I'm asking for. Let's get the growth we want. Let's get the affordable units we want. Let's do it smartly. You all just heard a presentation on Victory Boulevard. You don't see me opposing it. I think it's smart. I don't think this is the right thing for Staten Island. That's why I've been so vocal on social media and so passionate about it. I've gone on too long. I thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the commissioners for your endurance, and I hope you do what I heard Mayor de Blasio say in his daily presses a couple months ago, and that's believe that the voices of the community matter. Thank you.